Hi there, I'm back. And contrary to popular belief, I did not starve to death in that basement where I'm held hostage and forced to paint some miniatures. I was just busy, and hopefully you can hear and see that I have a new microphone and a new light setup, which means I can now actually wear my glasses in those intros and see what I'm doing. So come along and I want to... I don't hear you painting in there, Petal. I gotta go. The release of Warhammer Old World last year not only marked my return to Warhammer Fantasy, but also my return to the wargaming hobby as a whole. And that kicked off my desire to work through my entire miniature gaming bucket list. You know, just all the hobby things I did about a decade ago or never gotten around to do. And one of those items on that list is Battlefleet Gothic. You see, in the olden days I played Warhammer mostly at my local GW store. And the guy who worked there did something that was called a Veterans Night, which meant that he closed down the shop at the normal opening hours on a Friday night, and then he opened up again for a chosen clientele to hang out and play games. And this was the exact moment when I was introduced to Battlefleet Gothic for the very first time. Because back then it was not allowed to play a so-called specialist game inside the GW store to the normal opening hours, but these rules didn't apply at Friday night. And what can I tell you? I was hooked. I loved miniature war games, I loved spaceships, and torpedoes who are up to 200 feet long. The game had bloody everything. So that night, I went home, hopped online, and mail ordered a whole Chaos war fleet for a ridiculous amount of money. I then built it and painted it, went to the next Veterans Evening and had my first match of Battlefleet Gothic. And then I never saw the guys who played Battlefleet Gothic ever again. So I played it once. But this terrible fate ends today. Because my local wargaming club has the Battlefleet Gothic fever right now. And 3D printing made it so easy to start new games, especially dead ones. So I assembled my minis digitally, printed them, made some packs out of wooden skewers, and printed a metric ton of torpedo tokens. Cause this time around I'm going to play the Imperial Navy. And at this point in time I have exactly 12 hours until the next Wargaming Club meeting, where I have a Battlefleet Gothic playdate. So let's paint them up. First I primed everything that wasn't black yet, well, black. Then I utilized an age-old airbrushing technique that I lovingly call the pinch and tuck. With that technique you can actually create quite the controlled splattering. Perfect for blood or star patterns. And that's just what I did. I splattered those bases and torpedoes quite well. Then I did a gentle zenithal highlighting on my ships. And yes, I know, we are talking about space here. Coming from the top is still the best looking, and after all we are going to play on a 2D surface. Then I gave those ships the old rub down with my dry brushes. And let me tell you, on all those extruding surfaces, it's just bloody gorgeous. And so easy to make. Those Gothic style ships are basically screaming for being dry brushed. Just look at them. I also made sure to stipple some irregularities on those flat surfaces, so that in the end it looks like some wear and tear or battle damage on the outer hull. I also recently acquired some new speed paints, including this true metallic gold one. And I am happy to report that you don't need to bother with it. The opacity is quite bad. And I also don't like the shade of the color, it's way too reddish brown. So I switched to my favorite airbrush gold, which in contrary to my other airbrush paints does not apply well with a brush. So I did the only reasonable thing a man can do. I mixed those two paints together and thought to myself, I'm gonna fix that with shades later on. So I went ahead and painted a lot of trims golden. And when I say a lot, I mean this amount of lot, multiplied by 7 ships. My thank yous go out to my steady hands. At this point I also decided that I actually like the white at the bows quite a bit. It goes really well with the gold on the trims, so all that's left to do is darken everything else down to make it pop. So out came the Gravelord Grey. And I drenched all these superstructures and weapons platforms, only leaving a few white surfaces behind. Then I painted the insides of the engines white. Cause this isn't my first spaceship rodeo and I know exactly how to paint those engines. But first I washed down all these gold trim parts with a black shade. Every single one. I then grabbed the other metallic speed paint I picked up and I am happy to report they are quite nice. Coverage is excellent and the shade is silver. That's what I expect from a silver paint. 10 out of 10. And it was quite convenient that the paint was actually performing nicely, because I decided that I needed 30 torpedo tokens. So yeah, I painted 90 torpedoes. And I already done the starry background. So making a painting mistake was not an option. It's always a good idea to set the bar extremely high when you try out a completely unknown new paint. You know, I'm known for my sane approaches. So after 5 hours of work and almost losing my mind, I cooled down by painting those engines with the technique that I used before, so I knew what I was doing, he said, lyingly. And if you're interested in how those fluorescent pigments work and how you should apply them, you can find a video where I'm explaining it here. And that's it, fleet finish. But I have the feeling that I've forgotten something. Oh yeah, the reveal! Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. But here it is, my finished Battlefleet. And I'm planning on using this at least twice, which would be quite the improvement. I'm also quite happy that I've done this in one afternoon. And to be fair, it would have been even faster if I wouldn't have opted for, well, 30 torpedo tokens. So if you have an unpainted Battlefleet lying around, give painting it a try. Those miniatures are very forgiving and very easy to paint. And I also wanted to thank you for sticking with me, even if there are sometimes quite lengthy interruptions in my uploading schedule. And as you have already chosen to stick around, I'm going to see you in the next one.